Hey guys, this is Sports Card Man. So I created the Bowman Chrome Auto research in this video. So pretty much this is almost like a current tracker of what Bowman Chrome Autos are selling for. And I created this because I wanted to find the value in a lot of players and compare a lot of players versus, who's the next guy to go up, who's underrated, who's a little overvalued, who's already trending up. And the way I did this was I developed this in my book was you can just, you know, compare players by position. You can just say to yourself, okay, this guy I think is better than this guy, or I think, this guy should be just as much value as this guy. And developing tiers really helps that just because if you can look at which player is in a certain tier based on their value, it really helps you determine, where you think a guy's value can wind up, like, who should be in what tier, who's like, a player that's like way too good for their tier. So that's the purpose of the tier. So tier one is basically anyone that's 5,000 and up, which is only Trout. And this is applies if any of one of their cards sells for over 5,000, not just all of them. So that's the purpose of that. Tier 1A is 1,000 to 5,000. So the same thing. If they have a card that's over $2,000, like they're going to be in that tier. That's what applies like to Acuna there, obviously. Um, and everyone else I have listed here in tier one. Tier two, 500 to 1,000. I'll get to that. Tier three, 250 to 500. So if like their PSA 10 goes anywhere from 250 to 500, they would be in there. Same thing, tier two, 500 to 1,000. If like their uh, Bowman Chrome Auto sells in a PSA 10 from anywhere from 500 to 1,000, they're in tier two. Tier 4, 100 to 250, tier 5, 50 to 100, and tier 6, 0 to 50. And there's a lot of players in tier 6. And there's over 200 players listed of Bowman Chrome Autos from different years. So I'm going to upload this document on YouTube. So if anyone wants to like search, they can just type in a guy like, let's say, like, Clint Frazier today, since like Aaron Judge got hurt. He's already trending up. So you could just literally type in Frazier and just like find all when you type in Control F, and then you see where Clint Frazier is. He's already trending up. Like, a PSA 10 actually just sold of him. It was like 130 your best offer. So I'm assuming that went like 115 now. There was no comps of him. So I actually had them projected at 150. So that's just like one example. And the reason why I think it'll be 150 is because it hit 150 last year, if not 175. So it's going to hit 150 all day. And the same thing with a 9.5. They're around like $75. So they probably have already come up also. They're probably closer to like 95. That's why I had him as a trending up. So I didn't mention my colors, which I should do before I get more into this. So anyone that's in blue here on the left are guys that I'm currently buying. It doesn't mean that you have to buy them, but it means guys that I would buy based on all of the research that I've done, just based on like the best value buys. I'm not saying like any of these guys are bad buys because obviously I have them trending up and with like a certain projection, and a lot of this stuff is going to go up in value, especially from now and through the start of the season. So I'm not saying all these projections will be right, but I am confident in probably about 80 to 85% of them. So if you are going to invest in someone, definitely use this tracker. So these are all comps from PSA 9s, BGS 9s, and ungraded, kind of like an average. So, someone like that's graded in a PSA 9 might sell for a little higher depending on the card. Like Trout, for example, is going to sell higher in a 9 versus ungraded. So his was a little tough. But I'm just going to go through the colors. Undervalued is anyone I have marked in blue. Overvalued is anyone marked in red. Green is a guy that is his stuff is already trending up, like as we speak. And then basically just I did the pink as a way to just to show the tiers. So as you can see, there's about 15 players actually in tier 1 or tier 1A. So that's anyone that's over like $1,000 in their card, which isn't that many cards. Um, so if you really think about it, there's not a lot of. I mean, it's a good amount, but it's not a lot. So out of these, I could see Tatis hitting like 1,400. I could see Judge, I'm not sure that's going to happen, especially if he has to have surgery. But I know that did hit 1,400 last year. So if he doesn't have surgery, it still has a shot to hit it. But I think I am worried about him a little bit. But I've already bought into Judge. Like for example, like um, his PSA 10s have actually trended down. Like one went for 1,050 and one went for 850. So this is already kind of like a little off, but I've bought into one for 800. So I'm not going to sell it obviously while he's injured. I'm going to hope that he's able to heal up, but I think I'm going to have to be patient with that just because right now is a bad time to sell. Uh, Yelich, I think, is the next guy to reach the Acuna Soto levels. Just because, he just signed the big extension. His tops update has trended way up. This comp was from a PSA 9 that was around 350, and I think those have already reached 400. I have them reaching ungraded or graded. I have reaching 500 this year. 9.5s are 700. If you can get them still for 700, like run to buy them for 700 because it's going to be the next $1,000 card. I think easily. Same thing, PSA 10s. I think they're probably actually going to hit closer to 14 or 1,500. It might be tough to get them for 1,100, but it's possible. Um, so, and I think there's a lot of room for them also as well. Acuna, like I said, has already trended up. Soto, he can also continue to go up, but it's gonna you have to put up a lot more money in comparison to someone like Yelich, which still has like a lot of room to grow. Tatis, I mentioned I liked a lot. Vlad, a lot of people are. I'm not sold on him. But I mean, they were red hot last year, and they're in a really good lineup. So he could get a lot better. Joe Adell, I think those will go up a little bit more just because I think he's going to make the team and, he's going to start out well and his stuff will go up too. Robert, I think he's overvalued, to be honest, like at 575, but I still think he can get up to like 700. He's one of the rare guys I said was overvalued, but I still think they'll go up because there'll be so much hype on him in the beginning of the season. But then I think throughout the course of the season, I could see them going down because I'm not seeing like a monster rookie year from him. I think it'll be like a good year, but I don't think it'll be like a monster year. Arenado, I mean, that is a really tough card in high grade. Like even like 9.5s are getting tough to find. So I think at 300, even in a 9, that's like a really smart buy, just because all 2010 stuff is real hard to get. Um, so if I'm going like too fast, it's just because there's a lot of guys in this video. So I mean, anyone can rewind it and watch it again, or I might even do like a thing on Instagram where I take questions live and do it that way too, and see like what people think and stuff like that. So getting into tier 2, my personal favorite is Bryce Harper. I just think a big year from him is coming. His value is about half of what he is right now. Like you can get a 9.5 like mini gem, which means like 3.95s and a 9. You can get one for like 660. And I think that's going to be $1,000 card all day, just because last year around in early April when he was first with the Phillies, I sold two of his 9.5s for $1,250. And this is only a year later, and people are saying, Harper's going to bounce back. Girardi's going to really motivate him. The Phillies are going to be a lot improved, and he got real comfortable towards the end of the year. So I'm all in on Harper. I actually bought a PSA 10 dual 1010 for $1,000, and a regular 10 is around 875, and I think they're going to be around $1,400 to $1,500 this year. So mine in particular might be closer to like 17, 1800 with the dual grade. So I'm all in on Harper, and then even the same thing like a 9 or an ungraded one, 325 is a steal, considering how popular he is. But you gotta look for one that has a bold signature. A lot of those have streaky signatures. You got to get one that has a bold signature, and try to get one that's not like too off centered either, because a lot of those do come off centered. Um, Chris Bryant, he has some upside. I think people are kind of down on him. I'm not sure why. I mean, he still puts up good numbers, so I mean, that's a safe buy if you're going to buy him in the 2013 Bowman Chrome Auto. They're kind of tough to find in PSA 10s. I think though he still is going to increase though. Mookie Betts is another one of my favorites. Some of these actually have sold for 550, but with like the tax, that's like closer to six. So I saw one go like 650. I think that's going to be $1,000 card. He's one of the premier free agents coming this year, and free agents are leading up to after this year is what I'm saying. And those types of players always try to go like all out to have like a big year. He's on a stacked lineup. So I think he's going to have a monster year with the Dodgers. Any of these are good buys at 9.5s and PSA 10. So like for another $40, you might as well get a 9.5 for 450. They're probably even closer to like 480 now, would be my guess. So either one of those are great buys. Lindor, he's another one of my favorites. There's the PSA 10s of him are really tough to find. So you gotta get a 9.5 of him, or you gotta get an ungraded one. I paid around for an ungraded one. I paid around actually no, I was looking at Stanton. I'm sorry. I paid around 220 for Lindor, and I think those are going to hit around 400 this year. Just because I mean, look at what's like Tatis is selling for, and I'm not saying like you know he's going to be like as good as Tatis, or like he's not as young as Tatis, but he still puts up like really solid numbers, and he's half the value of like what Tatis is in terms of like either a 9.5 or ungraded. I mean, that's why I love Lindor. Like, and that was another purpose of this video. Compare guys that play the same position and look at their value. Like like he's got to be like the first or second best shortstop in baseball. That's another reason why I love him at such a great buy at 245, because that's just compare those two things. Stanton, I mean, if you want to take a shot, 175 would be probably your best shot. And then, they might go up to 225. Especially if Judge is out for a while, Stanton's going to have a big year. So, like, even though he's missing the start of opening day, I think you could maybe possibly steal a Stanton cheap, ungraded, and try to get one that's, like, decent, not, like, horribly off-centered in 2008. So I think that could be a good purchase as well. I already was pointing out other positions too. One of the things I wanted to point out too is, I mean, look what Andrew Vaughn is selling for in comparison to Pete Alonso. Like, I would rather buy Pete Alonso over Andrew Vaughn. I know Andrew Vaughn could be really good with the White Sox, and he's supposed to be like the most like major league ready bat, like in terms of like guys that were drafted last year, but to me, you want a guy that's proven over a prospect. You don't know what type of playing time Vaughn's going to get this year. That's a card that could easily trend down. I have them trending down. Like, I wouldn't pay 225 for that. If you can get me an Alonso for 225 and like a PSA 9, that's a great buy. I think that's a 350 card. just because I think he's only going to get better. He might not hit as many home runs, but he might bat like 280 this year. So he could, if he hits like 280 with like close to 40 homers, that's going to be a 350 card. Or if he even starts out hot, it's going to be a 350 card. PSA 10s, same thing, 550 only for him in a 10. I mean, it sounds like you would think like a guy that hit 50 something home runs would be higher. Like how that's what I was thinking. Like 550, like it seems low. It should be like 800. Like that's why I'm projecting it for 800. 9.5s, 450. They're going to be 650. Same thing. And 800. It could even be possibly higher. Alonso is a guy that could easily jump up to tier one, but like by the end of the season of over $1,000. Couple other guys I don't like. Adley Rushman, I'm not a huge prospect guy, unless it's a guy that's going to impact the 2020 season. He's not going to be up to like September. So it's just like it's hard to pay for an Orioles prospect that's $300. So I think those could easily trend down. And catchers, just look at some of the catchers like in the majors right now. Like a lot of them don't sell for anything. Sanchez doesn't sell for much. Wilson Contreras doesn't sell for much. Posey stuff came way down. So it's not like, yeah, he was a number one pick, but it's just like I can't pay that for a catcher. Like, I mean, Joey Bart is probably the only other one that was probably like a real player this year that's going to be a catcher. There's a couple other guys I have on my list, but I'll get into that eventually. So going on to tier three, Javi Baez, again, great buy. Look at he's like I said, he's probably the second or third best shortstop. Tatis, Lindor, Baez, and it's just like same thing when I got back to like look at the position. It's just like Bo Bichette, yeah, he's a great prospect. Is he better than Javi Baez right now? No. Like I would rather buy Javi Baez. Like I know I have Bo Bichette as undervalued just because of his upside, and I'm not knocking Bo Bichette. He's a great player, but I personally would rather buy Javi Baez over Bo Bichette. You can get a Baez for like 270 in a non true gem. True gems are like 300, so it's really not that much higher. There was a PSA 10 that closed recently for 410. I think that's going to be a 650 card, just because I think Baez is having like he looks like amazing so far in spring training. I know it's spring training, but he looks like he's going to have a monster season if he stays healthy. Um, I already talked about Bichette. I mean, you can kind of see the values on him. I think he's got big upside still, and he was real hot last year. He has some upside still to go up. Rendon, I was surprised, was like, really cheap still, especially because he signed with the Angels and he had a big year last year with the Nationals and he was awesome in the postseason. I was surprised he was $100. I think that's a 150 card, ungraded. 9.5s or 260. I think that's like a 350 card. There was no 10s, so that tells me that's going to be like a 600 card also. Machado was another one I liked. He did have a down year last year. He batted like close to like high 250s, but he still had like solid power numbers. And I know the ball was juiced, but he's on a Hall of Fame path, and people are saying he's going to have a better year this year. And it's like you can, like I have these at they were 300. There's actually a buy it now of Machado, believe it or not, like for like 230, which you can probably get like 250 with tax. That's like a really good buy. And there's one up for auction that I'm watching. So I'm actually buying Machado and the two like probably the 250 range or probably the 225 to 250 range. I'm buying them. Like anything higher than 250, even though at 300, like it's good buy at 300, but at 250 it's a much better buy just because I think it's a card that can get back up to 425 if he gets hot. In 2018, I remember nines were selling for that. So it's just like and it's like, yeah, he was having a big year then, like before, they traded him. But I think, too good of a player to be selling for only like that low in a 9.5 from that year. But so that's why I have him highlighted. Devers is another one. I think now he's going to become like the franchise player of the Red Sox. I know Bogarts is really good, but Devers seems like the guy for to be like the franchise player for the Red Sox. He's really young. He had a monster year last year. You can get a nine. Like I remember last year, I bought a 9.5 of him for $100, and look at it is like a year later, 270, and I think I sold it for like I got like 160, 170 after fees or something, whatever it was. Like I sold it like a month into the season. But I think he's really undervalued in all these tens, 9.5s, guys like that. But yeah, just definitely buy Devers. I actually like him like one of the best buys in tier three too, as I have him highlighted. Kleinick, he's high, but like he still could go up because look at here's another thing I get back to you like with look at the him comparison to the value of Gavin Lux. So if Gavin Lux is selling for 175 and he's already really sought after. Why can't Kellenic get there? I mean, and people are saying, he's really highly rated and this and that, and like the same thing with like Robert, like his stuff's really high too. But it's just like Kellenic is, just could be just as good as Robert, possibly not this year, but like in the future. So that's why I have him highlighted at 190 if I'm going to take a shot with like one of those. Um, these right here, like that I have, are like these highlights right here. This means that I think the player is going to move up into the next tier. So that's what that's for. Just some other good ones. Mancada just signed an extension today, so I mean his stuff's probably already trended up. I got him as a good buy also. Um, Posey, I think look at him like he gets like the Joe Mauer treatment. Like he's like gonna have like a somewhat like he's gonna make the Hall of Fame, but he's going to trend down. Like his stuff's I don't see like him going back up. Like I only see him getting a little cheaper. But I think at some point like there has to be a ceiling for him to stay at a certain value. So I think they'll always stay at like $100 for a while until he's like towards the end of his career. Um, but I do also like Eli Jimenez. I think there's still some upside on him. He was really hot last year around this time, so I think people are kind of sleeping on him. Xander Bogaerts, I like him a lot for a shortstop. Probably a top five shortstop easily in baseball. Consistent, still in a good market. Um, all those have upside. Ungraded 9.5s. Freeman, there was actually a 10 of him that just sold for like 390. So that was a really low pop in a 10 too. And like I told you, Freeman is arguably people have Freeman rated higher than Alonso as the best first baseman in baseball. So he shouldn't be, down in this tier. That's why I think all of his stuff is going to go up this year too. And I don't think people realize how rare the 2009 stuff is to get in high grade. So that's why that comp right there of 390 went pretty strong recently. And I think that's more like a 550 card. Um, Sanchez was a guy I did well with last year. He got red hot in April and May, and I think he can get hot again this year. And the Yankees are going to need him, obviously, because since they already have injuries. So I mean, if he just has like a couple good weeks again, it's a 150 card, just in a 9 or even ungraded if it looks well. I actually got 175 for one in the off season, and it was like pretty solid card. Like it was centered, it had minimal stuff on the surface. Like it was gonna get a 9 all day, or um, maybe an outside shot for a 9.5 or a 10. But maybe that's why someone bought it for 175. Another one of my favorites is Gallo. I talked about him on my Instagram at SportsCardMan. Um, his stuff's already trended up. You could have had a 10 of him for like 160, 170. There was a buddy of mine that bought him. That was from Texas. So I mean, we like him a lot. I mean, he was having a big year last year, and I talked about him last year in 2019 and in 2018. So it's like I've been on like the Gallo bandwagon for a while now. So any of those are good buys and 9.5s. Or ungraded even too. Lux, I think, will go back up. One of these was trending down, and now they've trended back up. They're like 420, 430. I think there's a little room for him, but he is considerably high for a second baseman. But he could have still win Rookie of the Year, and he's on a really good team. So that's why I still think there's room for him to go back up. And this is probably closer to 4.25 or 430, and it's probably going to hit at 500, 525. Same with the 9.5s and ungraded. There is Carlson, who I had mentioned or this past week how I think he has some upside, but considering how high he is already, I think he has some upside, but not a lot. So just kind of if you're gonna buy him, just kind of you know have a reasoning behind it, or maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe it'll be 600. I'm not sure, but like I said, not all these predictions will be spot on. This is kind of just a help out some people and see what they think based on all the research and stuff like that. But I am confident in a lot of them. And obviously you can see that I'm already buying some of these guys. Like I've already bought into Gallo. I'll just scroll back up quick. I have already bought into Lindor. I have already bought into Harper. I have already bought Judge stuff, which sucks because he got hurt. Um, so I'll scroll back down here. Who else I got so far? And just because I'm buying them doesn't mean that I'm trying to like jump up the prices. These are actual guys that I think are just going to go up just based on performance. Um, and anyone that I would recommend, like I think I wouldn't recommend them and not buy them either. So I have definitely bought them in the previous people in the past and that I recommended, and they went way up. So I do have a lot of expertise and confidence in this, and it's not something I'm just putting up just to put up. But so let's go to some guys that are overvalued. The Astro guys, I'm not buying. So someone could do well with them and just say like, "Hey, I bought all the Astro guys in 2020 when they had all this stuff going on." It's like that's going to take a lot of time to go back up. Like it might take a year, it might take 2 years. I'm not buying anybody on the Astros, not even Jordan Alvarez. Maybe some people have been buying Kyle Tucker, hoping that he's gonna finally have a big year. But I actually sold my Tucker recently. Joey Bart's trended up a lot. He was a guy that was cheap in the off season. This card was around $100 in January. It's already 175. He was one of the last minute guys I've had to change. People are saying he's going to have a big impact with the Giants this year. Um, Easily a card that's going to go up in value. He could make the team out of spring training. It's hard to say. Good upside for a catcher. Like I said earlier, I prefer him over Rushman all day, just because he's going to get to the majors faster. So those are my reasons for him. I think Trevor Story is undervalued in tier 4. We're getting down to the tiers. I'm moving pretty quick. I'm trying to move pretty fast, but there's a lot here. Story's good. Doesn't hit well on the road. Plays in Colorado, which hurts him. But I think at $50, I'm taking a shot and hoping they go up to 100. Same thing with his 9.5s, $100. PSA 10s, 165. They're going to be 250. I just like his potential. He's always a guy who easily hits 30 homers. Um, he's got a lot of upside. He was voted MLB Network's top shortstop, which I thought was a little bit of a stretch, but he's still a top 5 shortstop. We already went over about 4 shortstops so far. Here's another shortstop, Trey Turner, who just won a World Series. And, he puts up good numbers, but they're not great. But I think considering that the Nationals are going to, they just coming off a World Series, they could get back to the playoffs again this year. And considering at $50, that Turner was like really sought after a couple years ago, and if he finally has like a big year offensively, because last year he played with like a broken pinky, so I think maybe this year will be his best year statistically. So that's what I'm hoping and projecting them to go up in value. He's very tough pop in PSA 10s because I actually had one last year. I think any of these are good buys. Probably I would look to buy the 10 at 100, 110 range the most, just because it's if he gets hot, you can get 150 for that or even 170. So JD Martinez, I also bought in. I bought a 10 recently for about 160. They've already gone up to like 170. So I think I don't know why, but yeah, like because I play fantasy baseball, he is rated in the top 30 of every like fantasy baseball chart going, and as you can see, he's in tier 4 for like players. So like that's which doesn't make sense to me, just because he doesn't really get the respect, I guess, because he's a DH but he's starting to build a Hall of Fame path. Like, and he's only 32 years old. It's not like he's like people probably think he or assume he's like 34 or 35, but he's actually only 32. And I think he could have another big year with the Red Sox. And just so you know, like him in a 9.5 and like a true gem was like 250 in the off season. Like a couple of them sold for 250. So and that was in December. And most baseball has trended up from December to now, other than like Astros guys. So it's not like he can't go back up in value, but which I think he will. That's why I bought into him. Barte is really good. He's a little older considering compared to like other guys at second base, which doesn't scare me because I think there's still some good upside with him. So I definitely would buy him. I didn't buy him yet, but I would buy him. Meadows, I did buy. I bought a refractor True Gem Plus for actually right around what a PSA 10 value selling for, but it's so which I was happy with, and it's a refractor and it's a True Gem Plus. So I think that alone is the refractor I bought is probably a similar value to the PSA 10 or a little higher, maybe probably like 350, maybe a little higher than that, but probably not. Him in a 10 is 150. That's a really good buy. I think he's the best player on the Rays, easily. I think so. And people like the Rays a lot this year. He had a good year last year. So like for instance, like 9.5s, 107 ish, 110, whatever. They're going to be 175. PSA 10s, they're going to be 250. Ungraded is even going to go up also. Springer, I'm not buying. Not going to spend too much time on him. Pache, going to be up with the Braves. He's a little pricey for a prospect. This is one of my favorite prospects is JJ Bleday. I think he's going to be like a Kelenic of this year. He's going to just be a guy that like tears up the minors with the Marlins, and people just are going to just say like, oh, like wow, like Bleday is having like such a like great year in the minors, similar to the Kelenic last year with the Mariners, and his stuff's going to go way up. So he's kind of like my big upside guy, and there's no tens of him either. So that tells me that they're tough to get in tens, or maybe just someone hasn't done it yet. But he's my bigger prospects. Albies is really undervalued, still really young, only 23 years old. Got a lot of upside with the Braves. Could even get better from last year on a team that's going to be in the playoffs. Solid, rock solid buy. You're going to make money on. Just look for the auto that's not streaky with him. 2015 is hard to get in high grade. So this is undervalued at 150. Same thing with the PSA 10s. Herrera or Heria, however you say his name, he's starting to trend up like too high for me. But I think they're like these numbers, like these probably might have already probably increased, to be honest. But I think there's some room for him to go up, but not like a huge amount. But I do like him. Same thing with Josh Jung on the Rangers. He's going to be similar to Bleday. I think he's only going to trend up as well for a prospect this year. Um, he's one of the more highly rated prospects too. Andujar is already getting a little high for me. I had previously seen them going around like $40 in January. Now they're closer to 90. So I'm staying away. Like I have them going up a little bit, but I'm staying away from them just because there's not there's some upside if you get like high grade ones, but he's going to have to get hot. Um, so I'm taking like a safe approach with him, and I would buy him, but I'm not like zeroing in on him. So I would recommend him to people, but I'm not like coveting him like it's like super confident, like rock solid buy like other guys. Royce Lewis is way too highly of a prospect to be these current values. Like for instance, 240 in a PSA 10 for a guy that's a top 15 prospect is and then plays shortstop on a team that yeah, they might not need him this year, but maybe he comes up second half. Who knows? Maybe Polanco gets hurt. Like you never know. Like that's what I'm saying. Like he is way undervalued for a top premier prospect in a PSA 10. Same thing, Alex Baum. There's some good upside there. His stuff's a little higher though. Like he's already trending up, ungraded, and his PSA 10's trending up. But there still is some room for him to go up. But since he's so high, like they might not go up too much. But you never know. Like these are just my projections. I'm not saying all of them are going to be right, but we'll see. Goldschmidt in a ungraded 60. That's a really good buy at 60. Yeah, he's about 34 years old. Or I think no, actually I think either he's 32 or 34. I forget off the top of my head. I think he's 32. Um, but at 60, I'm buying them at 60. Cardinals are going to be really good this year. Um, he's had a really good career. Last year was a good year. It wasn't great. I would still take a shot with them. I invested in him in a 9.5. I paid around like 100 something, but the case is cracked. So I'm fine with that though at that buy. Uh, Rizzo is a solid buy. He's close to being a Hall of Famer. Um, Easily a card that's already trending up. You're going to make a little bit on him if you decide to buy him. Rollblaze is the guy that could take the next step. Was was good last year. Um, wasn't great statistic wise, but I think he'll be better. So easily a good buy, rock solid buy too with him. LeMahieu is a good buy too. Was This card was around 70, 75, even 80 last year. They're trending at $40. I mean that's a no brainer. It's a guy that's entering again his free agent year, um, going to have to step it up again for the Yankees since they already have two of their major players starting on the IL. So it's like he's gonna have to step up. I'm not gonna spend too much time on Drew Waters. I think he's overvalued, way too high. If you're gonna buy a Braves guy, I would buy Austin Riley over him, which I'll get to. Killaroff, I already talked about him. Real good buy on Instagram. Highly rated prospect. Love all those buys. Ungraded 9.5, PSA 10, all of them. Seager's a guy that's he's good. I must have missed this projection value on him. I don't know. Probably like that's the only error I made. Probably like $80 at the most. Don't see a lot of upside on him. I mean, he's good, but like I think like they'll go up a little bit, but not much. So I'm kind of like not too confident in that one. Luis Arias, they're all over the board. Like sometimes these ungraded ones have actually sold for like 70 already. So it's like 45 is the number you want to pay for them. Because if you're paying 70 for them, I mean, they can't get really much higher than that. I mean, look at just the same thing. I going back to like look at other second basemen. They're not selling for much higher than 100, 125, like and like Herrera or Albies or guys like that. Like so, 45 is probably like what you want to pay. I know some have sold already for 70, but it's just like 45. There's a bunch that sold for 45. There's some upside on him on PSA 10s still, considering how well he did last year and like how people love his upside. Um, And definitely, like, as I'm going through these guys, feel free to read the notes on the right and stuff like that. And I'm gonna try to do another Instagram video too, more. Um, Matt Chapman, I like him a lot. He hit for only like 230 last year, but I think he can improve on that. And I think, getting back to like other third basemen, he could probably get to a similar value of currently like what Rendon is selling for right now. Obviously, Rendon will sell for higher since he's better, but I think those can get up to 100. PSA 10s I think can get up to like 250 also. People love Matt Chapman. He was voted like a top like 25 player in all of baseball in the off season. Tucker, I think, is a little overvalued. I wouldn't buy him. I mean, I just sold one for 70, so it's like I don't know. He could do well. He has 30 seasons in the minors, so I mean that's one I could be wrong on, but I guess we'll see. Olson, I like a lot. I haven't had a chance to buy him, but I think he is really undervalued, and he had a monster year last year. And some people are saying, he could hit like 45 home runs this year. So it's this might be like one of the better buys on here. And PSA 10s are $90. They might even be higher. It might be 100. So I think that's a 175 card. Josh Bell, those are tough to get, especially in a high grade. Um, 75, and there is some room. You could probably get 100 for that, just because of how good a year he had last year. Benintendi, they're trending up. I mean, I don't love Benintendi. I think he's really good, like potential wise, but I'm not sure like his stats are like they don't. His stats like based on the previous years haven't really impressed me, and he's been in the league for like 3 years. People are saying like maybe this year will finally be his breakout year, which it could be. So it's like that's why I still have him as a good buy. And but they actually are trending up. So if you're gonna buy him, you can't wait too much longer. Biggio, I think, will still go up more a little bit, but his stuff's getting high also. He didn't have a great year, but people are saying he's going to be better, and because the Astros lineup's going to get so much hype because Biggio is like obviously Craig Biggio's son, so I think for that reason people always can talk about that. So in those reasons alone, him being a good lineup is gonna be why he goes up. Carter Boom, I already bought in. I bought in when they were selling for around like 105, and they've already reached like 130. I had them already hitting. I had them hitting 150. Some of them have already hit 150. So it's hard to get them at 105. But he was one of the first guys I made on this list, and I bought two of those. So those probably could potentially hit 175 even. He'll just have to start out hot. If they're already selling for 140, 150 before he even gets hot, they're going to be 175. Actually, sorry, I was looking at 9.5s. So yeah, they're actually 160, and I think they're going to be like 225. I'm saying I bought in at 105 on the PSA 10s. McNeil, I bought one for $40. They trend about 55. I think that's going to be an $80 card. That's what they were last year when he was potentially close to winning the batting title. I like all those. PSA 10s are rare. 9.5s is a good solid buy. Tim Anderson really undervalued at $20. I mean, he won the batting title and his stuff goes for $20. It just doesn't make sense to me. And people are all in on the White Sox this year. So 45 on those all day. 9.5s are probably mini gems are like 45. I bought a PSA 10 in the off season for like $60, and I think that's going to be a 175 card. And right now they're around 100. So I'm waiting. I'm just waiting till the White Sox, heat up or Anderson heats up, and then I'm cashing in on that. Madrigal, gonna probably may start the opening day at second. It's hard to say. I'm not sure yet. But I do like him still. Donaldson is cheap, and he's a guy that could go up in value. I have him going up a little bit. He's a solid buy. He's not a great buy, but he is a guy I would buy just because of how good of a team he's going to be on. And he is a little older though. He's around 34-ish, 35. So, but that wouldn't scare me. Aquino is tough because like I originally have him overvalued, but I'm kind of unsure on him because I feel like him and Jesse Winker are gonna platoon, and he's a guy that is a little overvalued right now. But I think this one I could potentially be wrong on, but I'm not sure. But it doesn't seem like people are running to buy him. Like he had in the start of spring training like 2 weeks ago, his stuff was going up, and now it's going back down. So which could be a good time to buy him, but we'll see on him. Wilson Contreras, I like him considering he's a top level catcher. $25. I mean, you have to buy him at $25. I mean, that's that's pretty low. I mean, for a guy that's probably a top three catcher in baseball at $25, like it's a no brainer. Out of all those, I would buy that. His 9.5s PSA 10, I buy him. Austin Riley, I've seen a lot of MLB Network analysts say, Austin Riley's a guy. He had a bomb this week. I think ungraded, they're a little overvalued at $75. I think that's a $70 card. But the best bang for your buck on him is a PSA 10. Great investment on that. That card was a 250 card last season. So I think this year it could get back to that, and him going back to third base is going to help. So we'll see on him. But I would buy him. I just haven't gotten to it yet. Buxton. I like him. People are finally saying this could be the year if he stays healthy, this and that. So, I mean, some upside there. Will Smith, same thing. There's some good upside there. Good cheap value for a catcher. Never know. That could easily go up. I think a 9.5 is way overvalued right now. There was one comp that went 150, wouldn't touch it at 150. I think it's probably a good buy at like I don't know, probably like 75, $80, maybe 90 at the most. And then I think there's some upside on the 9.5s, not much. So if you're gonna buy him, get a PSA 10 or like ungraded. Sensel I don't like just because there's no guaranteed playing time with him, so it's like I wouldn't buy him. They signed a lot of guys, the Reds, so it's like I'd stay off him this year. Could get traded to another team, maybe at the deadline. Who knows? Jeter Downs is he could potentially take over as a Red Sox second baseman, but he's still kind of overvalued considering how high he already is, and there's no sure thing with him. So it's like there's some upside with him, but not much. I could be wrong on him, but I'm not like running to buy Jeter Downs. I mean, I think he's good, but I don't think I'm not in love with him. Like there's other guys I would rather buy over him right now, which I could be wrong on, but we'll see. Mountcastle, good prospect with the Orioles, a lot cheaper than Adley Rushman, I'll tell you that. And Mountcastle is actually going to be in the majors this year, so that's why I like him. And I think all those are good buys. 10s, BGS 9.5s, ungraded, all of them. Chisholm with the Marlins, probably he might potentially make it this year too. That's why I made sure I included him. Good solid buy. Verdugo, don't love him. Overvalued right now. Wait with him. He's injured. Not gonna go up anytime soon. Nico Horner easily should be the starting second baseman on the Cubs. I don't know why he's already not won the job. He's gonna go up in value. Was a red hot card last year. They were $80 all day. That's gonna be a card you're gonna make a lot on. Cruz, big prospect on the Pirates, big guy. Could be like a guy that's like a sneaky prospect that gets in the majors this year, but I think it's going to be like a second half guy. So that's why I wanted to kind of include him. Some people like his upside and his power potential, but we'll see. McKay is a weird one. Like, they're trending up, they're trending down, like they're all over the board. Like I sold my 9.5 at like right at cost, which I kind of like maybe panicked on him. I should have been patient because he could be like a two-way player somewhat, but I don't think his bat is gonna get that many at bats because the Rays have a lot of extra hitters. They have like Jose Martinez on the bench who's going to get at bats. They have a ton of other outfielders. They added Renfro. They signed that Japanese player. There's a lot of hitters. So that's why I don't see McKay getting a lot of at bats. That's why as a pitcher, I don't think he's great. So that's why he has some upside, but not much. Nolan Jones, I'm really high on. He was a guy I talked about last year on my Instagram as a prospect that's kind of like an under the radar top 100 prospect, but for like a top 30 prospect overall, which he is on like every sheet, at $100 and a 10, it's like a no brainer because he's gonna get to the majors this year. And those guys usually trend up in values, similar to like I pointed out with Mountcastle, and he's also a third baseman too, and he's lower than Mountcastle. Frazier, goodbye. He's gonna go up easily with the injuries already to the Yankees outfield. These actually sold a 10 actually sold for probably like 115 today, and I think that's still gonna go up to like 150. They were like 175 last year. Dalbec could easily go up with the Red Sox. He could be like this year's Michael Chavez, who was hot last year. So that's a good buy. I don't like him ungraded. Some of these you can kind of see, so I'm going to kind of speed it up here as we get down a little down further on some of the lesser guys. So I'm not going to go through every guy starting like in a little while. But you can kind of just see like the positions, who I think is overvalued, who I think is undervalued. I'm going to talk about some other guys, but we're getting into like tier 5 and tier 6 guys now. So these are, and a lot of people are buying like these types of players. So I'm going to spend some time on it. But I know I've spent a lot of time so far. David Dahl has already trended up. He was a guy I talked about again on my page, and he was like in a 10. They were like $40. They're gonna hit 100, I think. And people love Dahl on the Rockies to have like a breakout year. Michael Conforto is really cheap in a 10, and it has a low pop. That's gonna be a 140 card also. I think he finally has like another like good year, so I would buy those also. Trammell could be a good buy. Not sure like how fast he gets in the majors. Going to be like a second half guy. White's a little overpriced for me. He's good, but like I think he's a little pricey for a first baseman. That's kind of unproven. Yastrzemski, same thing. I mean, they're $40 ungraded. I mean, he's good, but like there's some room if you can get it in a 10, but they're hard to get in 10s. They're hard to find. Mondesi, I don't like. There's some room, not much. So not gonna spend too much time on him. Brandon Marsh could be up with the Angels at some point. You just don't know when. Jesus Sanchez probably will be called up to the Marlins. That's why I think he'll go up. Ke'Bryan Hayes, I was in on last year. I think finally this year he gets called up. That's why I think those are good buys. There was a refractor that I was actually bidding on yesterday that went for like $55, 60 with tax. That was a good buy. That was probably going to be $100 card. I was like, do I want to buy him? And I was just kind of, but I still would buy him. I know I didn't win him, but I still would buy him. Rosario is a guy that's really underrated with the Twins. I mean, $10. I mean, and 9.5s, $35. It's like that should be like $60 card all day. Same thing, PSA 10s. They should be high. Blackman's really underrated too with the Rockies in 10. Same thing with Jorge Soler. Those are undervalued. Guy had a monster year last year, and he still looked like he's gonna have a good year this year. Campusano, a big prospect with the Padres at catcher. There's some good upside there. Good. I like him in the increase a lot in a 10. $45. I mean, why would he be selling for 45 in a 10 and 70 in a 9.5? That tells me that the 9.5 or that the 10 is really underrated on him. Let's go to some other guys. And some guys I'm skipping. I'm just not skipping them. I can't cover every guy. I mean, I'll be here forever and a day. Marcado, I think is a little banged up right now, but I don't think it's serious. So that's a good buy at $15. Kepler is a guy that is cheap right now, and he could have another good year with the Twins. $30 isn't bad. Just try to get him in a 9 or one that's solid in the 2010 stuff. Willie Calhoun, a lot of people have him on the breakout list. $35 all day in a 9.5, going to be a $75 card. Um, Brian Reynolds really underrated with the Pirates, especially in a 10. He's got good sneaky upside. Um, Kind of a guy I think that could fly under the radar. That's really good. Gurriel is a guy that is one of those Blue Jays young players that's like not getting talked about enough. I mean, look what he is selling for in comparison to Biggio, Vlad, or Bichette. He could maybe wind up having, like, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm saying what if he's the guy that actually has the best year out of all four of those guys, and look what the value is of him. And all these are trending up. I just got outbid on a refractor last night for about 100, and I think that's the number you want to pay for the refractor in a 10. And I think all those are good buys, and they may even exceed these numbers that I have him projected at. Chris Davis, I mean, he's so cheap right now. I mean, it's not real cheap, but a lot of people are liking him to bounce back with the A's. If you're going to take a shot, buy one for $25. Could be a $40, $50 card. Not a terrible buy. So considering the power, I think they can get back up to like 40, $50. That was a card that was going for like 80 or 100 last year in the beginning of the season. He started out hot. So just try to keep up with these trends from like previous years, and then just in these cards can get back to those levels if the player can get back to that level as well too. So Gio Urshela, $25, going to be the Yankees starting third baseman. It was a card that was 45 last year when he was hot. I think it can get back there easily again this year. I mean, he seems like the real deal to me. Chavez, good solid buy with the Red Sox, got good power potential still. I like him a lot. Grisham, I would load up on at $15. Got a bad rap last year when he dropped that ball with the Brewers. Probably going to be the starting center fielder on the Padres. Really undervalued. You could search Trent Clark or Trent Grisham. So for him, and same thing, PSA 10s, real good safe buy on him. I mean, but even if you're not sold on him, 15, you can't go wrong at 15. Like it's a Bowman Chrome Auto from 2015 at $15 shipped. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Austin Hayes, good buy with the Orioles. Could finally develop, and this could be the year. He's a little pricier than some other guys that are kind of unproven, but I think Lewis has the bigger upside over Austin Hayes, just because of the power and because of the size of him. They're both kind of not on great teams, so they're kind of somewhat similar values. But I think Lewis I prefer over out of those two. Sean Murphy, I mean, for a prime example, Sean Murphy is selling higher than Wilson Contreras. I mean, is he going to be as good as Wilson Contreras? It's hard to say. I mean, that should just tell you something about these sheets. But let's keep it rolling. Brandon Rogers, I'm not buying him. There's no playing time whatsoever for him this year. I mean, they're gonna have to trade him or gonna have to trade somebody. So Ian Happ's going up a lot in this spring training. Maybe finally does something with the Cubs. They haven't projected for the starting center fielder. We'll see. But he's not. He's a good sneaky upside buy. Could finally get back to the prospect he was, supposedly. I mean, $25, it's not a bad buy. Even 60 and a 10 isn't terrible. We're getting into Tier 6 finally. My favorite Tier 6 buy is easily Trey Mancini, $40 in a PSA 10. I mean, the guy hit like 290 last year with 35 homers. I mean, that's a real good year. And at $40, there's not many guys that hit 290 with 35 homers last year. So it's just like for that reason, they're gonna easily double in value, and he might get traded this year. We'll see. It just all depends. Paul DeYoung, I like him just because of the team he's on, and he has good power, but he doesn't really hit for average. But at 15, it's not a terrible buy. $45 is a little steep just because you don't know what type of year you might have. So it's like I don't know if I would be a little hesitant on that, but 15 I think is good. Hampson I'm really high on the Rockies. I was only able to get one of a refractor of him, and I paid 10 for a refractor, and I think the base of him hits 25. People are saying he's gonna be like he's one of the bigger sleepers this year with the Rockies, and he's gonna play a lot, this and that. So we'll see. Kingery could have still some sneaky upside. He could be like a guy that plays like 400, 450 at bats in the Phillies, even though they have Bomb on the rise. I still think he could do good. So I like him. Renfro is pretty cheap on the Rays. He's on a good team. $12. I mean, that's worth $12. He hit like a lot of homers last year, and he's on a good team. So $12, that's gonna double in value. JD Davis, he's good with the Mets. Good story last year. Had a good year. Would definitely buy him. Colton Wong, I don't know. He doesn't. He's $10. It's worth it. I mean, it could double in value. It's kind of under the radar card. Nothing spectacular. Eric Hosmer has really come down. This used to be like a massive card a couple years ago. $45 and a 9.5. It's like you want to buy them all day for that. I mean, that's too rare of a card. That's a really short printed auto. Um, so look into that. Dozier is actually playing first base instead of third base. I just got to change that. I think third base is Franco. Um, so yeah, I like Kevin Newman. Even though I mentioned they have Cruz coming up at short, I think at $25 and a 9.5, that's a good buy. Um, let's keep rolling here. Let's see what else. Jock Peterson, $15. It's a good buy. The Dodgers are more than likely going to be in the World Series. It's going to be a $40 card. Let's keep going. There's some other a couple guys in tier 6 that like. Hilliard's trending up with the Rockies. He's actually almost selling higher than Dahl ungraded, which is surprising to me. Some people like Willie Adams a lot. I've seen him on sleeper sheets for guys that could potentially finally break out. So we'll see on him. Another guy I didn't mention was Ahmed Rosario. He was pretty. I think he was a little higher up. Let me just see where he was. I can just search where he was because I know I don't want to cover everybody, but I just mentioned a shortstop, so I wanted to see. You see, like Rosario is 70 in a 9.5, and Willie Adams is half the price. So it's like, who would you rather buy, Adams or Rosario? So that's why that's the purpose of these sheets, and to know these values and learn these values. This is only going to help you learn these values and get accustomed to. This is almost like your own tracker, so you can just look at this all the first. You could use this for the first couple of weeks actually. But like this is still going to be up to date. So if you're going to invest in a Bowman Chrome Auto, now is the time to do it before the season starts. Because once the season starts, all these prices are going to go up, as I'm pointing out. Brandon Nemo has like a heart problem right now, I think, or something, but I'm not sure how serious it is. He could be cheap buy in a PSA 10 because they're selling like really low, so that could come down even lower. So, but I would take a shot with that at $25. Francisco Mejia, I mean, $5. It's not a bad buy. It's a low risk investment. Nunez was interesting to me on the Orioles. He's kind of like not that popular, but they were selling for like $25 last year. So I think at $5 I would buy them just because he had a lot of homers last year. So Profar, if I would take a shot, 9.5, I'll take it for $15. I mean, it's a low risk move. Fisher is a guy I like a lot in the Blue Jays. They are really high on him, and they're actually starting him. $20 in a PSA 10. I mean, that has a really low pop. And the same thing, a 9.5 for 10. I could see easily double up or triple up on that, and then ungraded, they're wicked cheap, $2. I mean, we're into tier 6. These are all guys that are going to be cheap. These are all guys that as of right now, they're none of their PSA 10 sell for more than $50. None of them. That's why they're all in tier 6. Um, Toscar Hernandez or Teoscar, I can't say his name. I always botch it. People like him a lot this year as to be like a sleeper too with the Blue Jays. They are going to have like a scary lineup, I think. So that was a card that was red hot a couple years ago. $10 he's down to. So it's like $10. You got to buy that at $10. Even though I don't have him highlighted, but we'll see. Yeah, a couple other guys. Trying to think who else. I pointed Sheldon Noose out a lot. I don't know if he's going to win the job, but at $5, I'm buying them. But yeah, these are all the hitters. I think I pretty much covered almost everybody. I didn't get everyone, but I got a lot of people. But I am gonna upload this to YouTube. See in the comments, who you liked, who you agree with, who you're buying based on this video that I did, who you agree with, who you don't agree with. I'm always interested in hearing people's opinion about it. And if someone wants to point out who they think is a good buy based on all the research I've done, I would love to hear it. And possibly I would even maybe buy in based on what they tell me or why they think what they saw. Just yeah, anything is cool. I just want to hear people's input, and I hope this helps out people to invest in Bowman Chrome Autos, and I think they're going to see a big surge in value this year. So yeah, you guys can follow me at SportsCardMan, and I'm going to do some type of Q&A with this on my Instagram Live. So if you want to tune in for that, you can. I might also even do something on Twitter, which is at SportsCardsMan, where I might do something to show this to my Twitter following also. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and hope you guys like the video. Thanks.